Welcome to Pause Button with Storytime Gamer and Bob,
a weekly podcast covering gaming news, reviews, and all things geek.
I'm your host, Storytime Gamer, also known as Eric, and I stream a variety of games on my YouTube channel, Storytime Gamer, with the focus of story-driven games, role-playing, and horror games. I also love anything from the 80s and 90s pop culture.
And I'm Bob, bringing you games you can chill to. Survival crafting, factory management, and open-world RPG. Anything you can play while listening to a podcast, an audiobook, watching Netflix.
Send us your thoughts, ideas, and reactions to emails at pausebuttongaming.com. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast so you always have the latest episode for when you need to step back from life and press the pause button.
All right, let's get to the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
You saying cool over there?
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
It's hot.
So speaking of, it's so hot. We went to the theater yesterday where you think it would be nice and cold.
Yeah.
And it should be safe, but it's not. We were watching Thor: Love and Thunder, and right, it was about 20 minutes into it, 30 minutes into it, there was a fight scene, and guess what happened? The power went out.
Oh, no.
Yes, at the movie theater, and the power went out, and there's like a climactic fight, so it's not like the biggest one, but it's definitely like, here's a big revelation about to happen, and it pissed me off so much, because it came off, it was like a 10-minute wait. My kids were there. I was with my dad, and we were all just sitting there and taking our time. We actually took the time to go use the bathroom because, they start doing like 40 minutes now of commercials and previews before the movie starts.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we took the time to be patient, and they got the projector going again, but they got the sound on first, and then the video came next, but they didn't rewind. So there's about 30 seconds of the movie I didn't get to see. I got to hear it, but I didn't get to see it. So I guess I'll look forward to that on Disney Plus.
Just 30 seconds.
Yeah. It was important, though. It was something that I would have liked to see, but, I figured it out from the audio.
Well, what did you think about the movie?
I loved it. Very much
good?
So. It was so good. So in case y'all didn't know, I'm a big Marvel fan, and Bob is too. And let's see. So with Thor, this is what his fourth solo movie. And that's always hard to do, a fourth movie in general. And I thought it was really good, solid.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call myself like a diehard Marvel fan. I like good movies, and a good movie is a good movie. Thor 2 was not a good movie, but they really got that character back on track. And I went into this with no expectations. I didn't read any reviews. I saw a couple trailers. I was not prepared to like it, I'll be honest with you. But oh my gosh, the writing is so good. I mean, there were moments in that movie that I laughed out loud multiple times. I mean, great punchlines, a good feeling movie, kind of almost like a classic, feel good action movie, comes to a close at the end.
Yeah.
I liked it. Good. It was a good time.
Oh, it was a very good time. And that's the thing. It's funny. Everyone doesn't like Dark World as much. I kind of liked the second Thor more so than the first one, because he had the first one directed by Kenneth Branagh, so it's very Shakespearean. And it's hard to take that character and like ground him, which was what a lot of the Marvel movies were doing, was grounding characters to make them relatable and enjoyable and stuff like that. And so I was like, well, how are we going to do Thor? And they did well. And then we took it we got a Game of Thrones director in on top of it for the second one, made it more brooding, like, okay, I see what you're doing. But I think Thor has to be this funny character that was brought to us with Thor Ragnarok. And that's the lane he needs to stay in.
Yeah, totally. It's like they were trying to figure out what to do with him, and then they saw how successful Guardians of the Galaxy was with humor, with 80s music. And they were like, let's bring him into that universe. Great call on that, because Chris Hemsworth is funny.
Yes, he is.
He's really funny.
Yes, and
Natalie Portman is not funny. She doesn't make me laugh, but she sure gave it the college try in this movie. I'm not a huge Natalie Portman fan, but she did a great job.
I'm a decent enough Natalie Portman fan, because I know she's got the acting chops. She does well, and I don't blame her for the prequels to Star Wars at all. Not her fault. I would say that what's interesting about this, because of Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok came out to be more science fiction instead of it just being this mystical, magical thing. And I think that was the best move. At first, I was like, oh no, it's going to be like the Guardians. Like, oh, this worked out in its favor. And it makes sense that Thor is with D&D, is like a barbarian who is funny because they're not all the way there mentally all the time.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, those goats, those screaming goats. Oh my gosh. And Zeus, what's the actor's name that played
Russell
Zeus?
Crowe, surprisingly.
Russel Crowe as Zeus. Oh my gosh, you are not invited to the orgy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to explain that to my kids.
God, I know. Daddy, what's that?
What word is that? Oh, don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, and we can't wrap this topic up without me talking about what a great job Christian Bale did.
Oh my god.
As that character.
As Gore.
He was creepy.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Oh, yep. Good makeup, good character. Loved him. And
not your typical, evil villain who wants to take over the world. He's got a pretty simple hook. He just wants to kill every god out there. He's got a really good reason for it. And he kind of has a cathartic moment at the end. It was great.
Oh, no. I thought they wrapped it up perfectly. And the title makes so much sense. Not to say anything, but once you're done watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. That title comes up at the end. He says, and they're known as, and it shows the title. And you're like, oh, that's what Thor Love and Thunder means. Oh, well, shall we move on to the news? This was a crazy week for news. You and I were going through, as we saw articles through the week, adding them to our list, and they just kept on coming. There's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
We took some out of the list.
Well, let's
jump into this.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of game announcements, surprisingly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, this first one, I saw this one on Monday, and I thought of you because I know that you're into crypto, and this is about a cryptocurrency created for No Man's Sky players. I don't know if you saw this, but it's a small community that's doing it, but they created essentially a cryptocurrency to use with the game. It has no monetary value. In fact, they'll blacklist anybody that tries to buy or tries to trade in cash. But they're using it to exchange goods and services outside the game. So if you want a painting in the game, you can buy it from another player. Or if you're a console player and you want a PC player to edit your game to add like a creature or something to it, you can pay them in this currency. It was interesting. We were talking about the metaverse last week, and it made me think, this is kind of interesting way to integrate real world IRL activities into a game. What do you think? Did you get a chance to look at it?
No, I didn't actually. I'm sorry, I didn't. I should have been like, ooh, cryptocurrency. But that's an interesting idea. It's be curious to see how well that is honored and how well that flourishes in that community. If it is an actual internal currency to be used, and it's not necessarily loot crates or microtransactions, or whatever the currency is on Second Life, but it's within their community. And I'm curious to know how that's actually tallied and distributed amongst everybody, so the game developers don't get angry if items are being shared and stuff like that. Kind of like I remember when Elden Ring came out, there were so many crackdowns on experience boosters or items people would take and then give to other people by giving them their save files and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, and the reality is anything that has value of any kind is eventually going to be used for money. I mean, they can't prevent that, and it'll go down that road eventually if it gets popular. So I don't know. It was an interesting little experiment. We'll see what the community does with it.
Yeah, let's see. So Sony is hiring an emulation specialist.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that they're trying to find someone that can program. Hold on, let me give you the proper title for it. They are. This is from Kotaku. Official software development. Our software development engineer position works on the tools and technology team at PlayStation Studios. Support the newly relaunched classics for PS4 and PS5. So what is speculated is that they'll touch PlayStation 3 games, which honestly needs to happen for PlayStation to kind of compete with Game Pass.
Yeah.
and the library that Xbox has, because there's so many games from even PlayStation 2 that I wish that I could play on my PlayStation 5. And it shouldn't be an issue at all to play any of these old games.
Who is playing all these old games? I mean, there's so many games. You and I are going to talk about our top 10 in a bit.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked at all the games I've played, all the games in my library, and I pulled out like the best ones. And there was a huge list. There's so many games. There's so many new games coming out. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, and more games are good, I guess. But
yeah, because
I'm going to go back and play any of those games.
Yeah, for me, it's a nostalgia thing. Like, I want to play this game. I
Sure.
haven't played it in years. I remember it being good, but I can't play it because I have to go get the hardware for it and then find a copy of the game disc that's not scratched all to hell. That's my issue, and it shouldn't be this hard to do it. And it's probably a profit thing. They don't see money in it, but honestly, there's so much money in it.
Well, and Microsoft using it to flesh out their Game Pass offering, because you go in there and you see, I love seeing that old like 360 logo, and it looks kind of like the discs that I used to buy, and and all those old games are there. It's pretty cool, and I do dip into some of those sometimes. I don't even think about it.
Oh yeah, I'll go on there and I buy titles that I see just because like I have it again because that's important to me.
Yeah,
because either it got lost, got destroyed, or I sold it, and it's like, oh, in retrospect, I should have kept on. I should have held it. Because GameStop was notorious way back when, just to take pennies for your game just so you can get a new game. And I wasn't as good about holding on to everything as I feel like I should have.
Yeah, I remember walking in there with stacks of games.
It's like, I'm tired of these.
To get
Just
a
give
new
me something
game.
new.
Well, I wasn't tired of them. It's just that I wanted a new game, and I could save some money by doing that.
True.
Now I wouldn't want to part with any of my games.
Yeah, and especially when you do digital downloads, it's like easier to you can't, which is the genius of it, I guess.
Well, this next one is pretty short. I ran across this. You saw season 3 of Love, Death, and Robots, right?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
You remember the episode In Vaulted Halls Entombed, where these modern soldiers go in and they find Cthulhu?
Yes.
So when that opens up, I don't know if you reacted the way I did, but that scene starts, and at first you're not sure if those soldiers are real or not. Mm-hmm. Is this like live action? And then they get in a little closer. You're like, oh no, this is animated, but the quality is so good, it looks live action. Well, they created that with Unreal Engine 5.
Oh,
and
love it.
I didn't know that. So there's a video, and we'll link to it in the show notes. There's a video where they show how they made it. And here's what got me really excited is the facial animations, the motion capture, everything's so incredible. But I looked at that thinking, oh my gosh, in 10 years, we'll be playing games that look like this. This is where things are headed.
Yeah.
That's very exciting to me, because that show was incredible. And I can't wait to see what people do with Unreal Engine 5.
Oh yeah, I can't either. I mean, especially with that Matrix demo that came out around this past holiday season. I've been just drooling for something like that constantly being put out. And of course, what's funny though is that short film, the first thing that I went to was the recent Dark Anthology game, House of Ashes. Have you watched a Let's Play of that or played it yourself yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. If you like that short, and this goes to anyone else out there, if you like that short from Love, Death, and Robots, check it out. It's a House of Ashes from the Dark Anthology series. So it's a super massive game similar to The Quarry. And I'll probably do a playthrough on my channel as we get closer to the new episode that comes out this fall. Because that's a good game.
I made a note to check it out.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Going back to Thor, you know what came out, or at least was announced this week?
I know.
God of War Ragnarok's release date and pre-order dates.
So excited. So excited.
11/9/2022 is when you can pick up a copy.
Yeah, last week when we talked about this, we had learned that it was, what was the word we used? Undelayed? Yeah, it was undelayed. It was still undelayed. And now we found out that it was actually got a release date.
And they were showing,
Yeah, I get more excited the closer this date gets.
Oh yeah, and I like how it's not like a year from now; it's within months, and I appreciate it when we get a release date within, just a few months compared to, I have to wait that long for it.
Yeah.
And I know it's the 15th of July. You can start pre-ordering these, the game, and then also the different special editions and all that. And you get like Thor's hammer and a bunch of little collectibles, a map, things like that. And I'll definitely be trying to get the big one if I can.
Here's another one. We both landed on different articles about the same topic, and this is about Diablo Immortal and their microtransactions making $1 million a day.
Yeah.
And this is so interesting to me. I tried out Diablo Immortal a couple episodes ago, and it's cool. It's a Diablo game. It's not for me. But they talk about the backlash with microtransactions, and people say they don't like microtransactions, but a lot of people are spending money. Well, not just on Diablo Immortal, but on microtransactions in a lot of games.
Oh yeah, it's well, I don't want to say necessary evil. It's become an evil that has become part of our daily lives. And I blame like Candy Crush, honestly.
Sure.
For how it has become okay to do it. And then, other games before that, when DLC started becoming a thing, you could easily just start cranking, it's just $5 or it's just $5. And then that's where these people make their money. It could have been, it's free to download, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So that's how they make their money.
And, I don't know, part of it is you get a game for free, and why should you get a game for free? I mean, you'd spend $10-15 on it. But then there are ways that microtransactions can be kind of predatory and kind of
very much so
gross. There's a game that I love, Shadow of Mordor, one of my favorite games, which is on my list somewhere. But the sequel to that, Shadow of War, this is a Lord of the Rings game. I don't know if you ever played this game, but they had microtransactions in it, and I spent a fair amount of money on that. But the microtransactions just felt kind of gross. They were loot boxes. They were things that would speed the game up, and give me something cool that I'm going to enjoy in the game. But they kept tempting me with these things that made me feel like, oh, you're playing a slow version of the game. Once you spend, another $3 or $4 and we'll speed it up for you. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way they did that. Oh
yeah. It's pay to win versus pay to play versus pay if you want. And it was just what Ubisoft's really bad for. Like, that was my biggest beef with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Because there's so much just cosmetic transactions.
Oh yeah,
put in that
so much,
and then it's like even like there's microtransactions within the world by doing like, if you want these special items, well, you have to do these special quests. I'm like, it's not even just money. It's just like there's another special thing. It's like so many gate things. Too much. It's too much, and I hate it
too much.
Microtransactions need to just go away. I'd rather be able to play my game, or at least have all the content for my game that I'm paying $70 for, rather than you getting more money from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Assassin's Creed just keeps getting more and more bloated. Ugh. And it's kind of sad because, man, that game was kind of reaching its peak of like just greatness around Black Flag. And then they started to get bloat. And I love Valhalla a lot. But it's so big. It's like that analogy I told you about, hey, I like steak. Well, how about 10 steaks? Mm-hmm. That's too much.
Oh yeah, that's a whole herd of cows.
Well, we talked about remasters and remakes on the last episode, and I noticed that Rockstar is shelving plans for Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto 4 remasters. No. They're not making them. Does that make you sad?
No, it makes me so sad because Grand Theft Auto 4, I believe, was one of the best Grand Theft Autos. And it's because people bitch about it because it was starting to get kind of serious. And I love Nico Bellic. And I loved how realistic that world was becoming. And I thought it was so good, so well done. It still had the Rockstar twisted sense of humor. And I loved it so much. So it makes me sad that happened. Yeah.
Well, and I took this position last time we talked about it. I'm not going to go back and play those games. I want the new ones. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is such a great game. Why would I ever go play Red Dead Redemption? When Red Dead Redemption 2 is out.
But what if it was
remaster people? It's bad news.
What if it was Red Dead Redemption 2 DLC, where it becomes the whole game of Red Dead Redemption? So you're playing.
I'm not going to play it again.
You play Red Dead Redemption in the whole storyline, but in the game engine of 2, plus the whole map.
Oh yeah,
Because that's what happens. That's what happens when you become
talking.
John Marston. You get the whole map from the first game.
Yeah.
So to me, it makes logic sense to go ahead and just put it in there. Come on.
That would be interesting. That'd be an interesting take. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I said last time that I didn't like remakes and remasters is because they bring new quality of life enhancements into games when they make sequels. And you go back and play the remake and you get the original game, you don't get that stuff. But if they brought the content from Red Dead Redemption into the Red Dead Redemption 2 engine, hey, I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another reason why I'm going to play Last of Us Part 1, because that's what they're doing from the Part 2 engine and everything else. So just
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's what it seems. They haven't shown any gameplay footage, but that's what it makes. It makes sense to me. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Speaking of, well, not remasters, but reboots, Silent Hill reboot trailer leaked. Apparently this
Another reboot.
Yeah. Coming this Tuesday, I think the 12th. Am I correct? Yeah. There's supposedly a trailer coming out, and this was leaked on on Twitter. Rebs Gaming leaked new Silent Hill game from Konami. Reveal date and teaser trailer have been leaked. Here's the teaser video, and reveal date is July 12th. And we're going to put the link to this article in the show notes. I'm excited because I liked Silent Hill. Granted, I was mad whenever PT was canned, Silent Hills, because that was so exciting and so new. And there's been so many games developed and created since then that have tried to recapture that horror of PT. In case y'all don't know, this was
what's PT?
PT was a PlayStation 4 demo game, which means playable trailer. And this was created from Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, all that. They were coming out with Silent Hills, but the whole game it wasn't in the title of it, and you wouldn't know what it was until you solved the mystery of this one corridor full of creepy things, and it was so photorealistic. And this came out on the PlayStation 4, and you can't download it anymore because it's been taken off the download site. And that's been like that for years. So people are actually on eBay selling PlayStation 4s with that game downloaded on
That's crazy.
And because Konami, I don't know what they've been doing, but they've been they suck. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. They're the reason why Metal Gear Solid 5 or 6 didn't do so well, in my opinion. Because they screwed around, pissed off Kojima. And the only thing that we've had for Silent Hill recently, besides horrible HD remakes or remasters, have been like pachinko machines and other things in Japan with Silent Hill. And it's like, y'all need to do something with this franchise. It needs to come back.
So let me ask you this. As someone that has not played Silent Hill or Resident Evil, what is the difference? How are those games similar or different?
Well, they're
both horror games, right? Both
are horror. So Resident Evil, it's zombies. So I think that's going to be the big first thing.
Okay.
And they both have puzzles, but I would say Silent Hill has a very much darker kind of personal hell meaning and storyline to it, and a lot creepier creatures. And it's not zombies. It's something to do with a town, and you don't know exactly what it is. And there's a lot of story and lore to it. Definitely creepier. It's harder for me to play through a Silent Hill game than it is Resident Evil, in my opinion, as in just the horror aspect. I love horror games. They freak me out, but that's what, horror games are. It's not like, this doesn't faze me. Creep factors. It's different from watching versus playing.
I sent you a video of a game called Alone in the Dark.
Yes.
This is from the 90s. Had you ever seen that before?
Yes, I had. And I only played, I think it was the second one, or the reboot that they did.
Yeah, that's right.
With a Carnby.
That's probably the first horror game I ever played. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so creepy. And like these creatures come out, and it was like all polygons and pixels and stuff. But they really captured that horror element. It's a cool game.
Oh yeah, very cool. So yeah, I'm hoping that that this comes to fruition and comes out in a couple of days. This is a CNN article, which, what CNN got to do with gaming? Well, UK antitrust officials investigate Microsoft's $68.7 billion Activision Blizzard acquisition, which honestly it should. There comes a point when companies need to not be able to get, basically eat every housing in existence.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. I like that Disney has Star Wars and Marvel. They've done well to an extent on that stuff. But when it comes to video games, like the biggest thing, especially when Microsoft got Bethesda, the worry is, is there going to be a Fallout game for PlayStation? Yes or no? And of course, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Is that going to come out for all systems? Yes or no? So I think it needs to be investigated, and that almost shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to investigate any acquisition that is this large. Although I've been listening to a lot of games journalism this week and hearing a lot of talk about this. And what's interesting is Blizzard. I think I'm going to make a statement that I don't think is controversial, but we'll see what you think. Blizzard is not as good a company as it was before it was bought by Activision.
Agreed.
It was kind of cored out. I feel like they lost a lot of their swagger. They lost a lot of the quality that they're known for when Activision bought them. Overall, that was not a good thing. But, and Activision's got tons of problems right now. And the word is that there's a lot of Activision Blizzard employees that want to be bought by Microsoft, because look what Microsoft has done, not just with gaming, but they have kind of reinvented themselves in the last 20 years. They were the big dog, before the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
They were kind of humbled, and their CEO Satya Nadella has really turned the ship around, and look what they're doing for gamers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thrilled about big acquisitions like this, but hey, do your investigation. But I think this might be a good thing for Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, as Blizzard and Activision have been really toxic, and there's so many allegations, sexual and other things like that, and just horrible crunch time, things like that. Yeah, that should be weeded out. I agree.
Yep.
And maybe it would be better, because I remember Blizzard had so many great games and titles, and then they got eaten up, and it's so mad because they made like one of my favorite games, Lost Vikings, as well as like StarCraft, and then whenever World of Warcraft came out, they kind of like took a sideline and let that be their moneymaker, which is a little infuriating. But then just quality in games and access has gone downhill.
Kind of sad, because Blizzard had such a name. I remember when a new StarCraft would come out, or a new Warcraft would come out, just like the anticipation, and they would never tell you release date. In fact, you knew when they started talking about a new game, you weren't going to know when that thing came out, because they would not release it until it had reached a level of quality, and you knew when it came out that it was going to be awesome.
Right.
And that's not true of Blizzard anymore.
No, it isn't.
Well, are you looking forward to Forspoken?
I was whenever it first was announced, but since then, all I see, I don't know, the gameplay and everything else, I think I'd have to pick it up and play with it with the controller and just see what happens. But it just doesn't seem that wow to me anymore. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. Yeah, when it came out, what's that scene where she says, "That's a fucking dragon," or something like that. You remember that from the trailer?
Yeah.
And when that happened, there's this, girl walking around in this, I don't know, post-apocalyptic city or something, and she sees a dragon, and I was like, "Oh, I'm here for that. That sounds cool." And I haven't seen a whole lot about it. It's been delayed to January. That was the news item. I think it was supposed to come out in November. In fact, I think it was supposed to come out in May.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out.
And it's been pushed to January.
Yeah, this was like it's from Square Enix, which, I'm like, oh, good RPG, something cool. But it looks, and she's like a person from our world that gets put to in like a magic world. I'm like, okay. I usually hate those kind of stories, and rather let's just stay in the magic world. We don't need to bring us to a parallel dimension or something.
Oh,
weird.
I like it. I like it.
It has to be done right. Because all I can think about is the He-Man movie with Dolph Lundgren. That's why.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm kind of, there's a lot of people are very reserved about this game. There are things about it that look cool, but it could also be very samey. I applaud them for trying something different.
Agreed.
Anytime a game comes out and people are like, "Oh, it's just like this other game." Okay, well, they tried something different here, so we'll give it a chance. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
I like to see some gameplay of someone controlling, not a developer, not pre-rendered.
Yeah.
See what the core mechanics are, because that's the thing. If like, okay, this is pretty, but does it play well?
Now, I'll tell you, something happened this week that I think is really cool, and that is a game came out that was not announced. I don't think it was announced. Gwent Rogue Mage is a new deck building game from CD Projekt Red, the makers of the Witcher series, and this just dropped in the middle of the week. In fact, I think on Tuesday, the article came out, hey, this game's coming out tomorrow. And I was like, what? The game just comes out? Does that even happen anymore? I would like to have more of those. It's nice to look forward to a game sometimes, but that when they make an announcement and they go, hey, this game is out right now, that's awesome. So I checked out Gwent Rogue Mage, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in the when we talk about our games, but it's a really cool game. Did you get a chance to look at it? I
looked at it, and I did not care for Gwent in The Witcher 3 at all.
Yeah, this is really different. This is not typical Gwent, and I've got to get you into Hearthstone so you can know what to compare it to.
I'll play it this week.
You need to. I'm not expecting you to like get into Hearthstone, but you need to play around so you can see what the bar is for a deck building game.
Yeah.
Because Hearthstone sets the bar, and Gwent Rogue Mage gets really close to that. You can tell. Just one little flourish is when you've got the board in front of you. If on the iPad, if you tap with your finger or click with the mouse if you're on PC, just in like an empty space on the board, like if it's sand, you'll see a little dust come up, and you can just kind of play with the screen.
So
fun. Like in Hearthstone, you're on the game board, there's like a drum over in the corner. It looks like decoration, but if you go tap on it, it makes a little drum sound. That's cool.
That's really very cool. No, yeah, immersive deck building is nice.
Well, it makes you feel like you're on, like you're there. It is immersive, and they really went hard on that with Rogue Mage. And I appreciate that. It's really neat. We'll get into a little bit more when we talk about games.
Well, I hope that whatever money that has with microtransactions or whatever goes to helping them finish. What?
Well, I'm sorry. I meant to say that's one of the things that's really cool about it. It's single player.
Yeah.
And you pay $9 for it, and that's it. I think you can pay another $9 to get a content pack, but that's it.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
No microtransactions.
Well, I hope that money goes to not only the development, but also to finishing up The Witcher 3 4K next-gen remastering, because that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, they need to finish Cyberpunk first.
I thought they did.
I'm kidding. I'm just being tacky. They keep finishing it.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think about the Skull and Bones preview that came out this week.
Shove it up
is
cannon.
Polarizing.
Throw it away.
No.
Throw it overboard.
It's a big no for you.
No, it looks so... Okay, it looks like a game for you.
For me?
But also, just I can't stop looking at it. And like, this was supposed to be an Assassin's Creed game, but they decided to just screw it around.
Did you play Black Flag?
No. Because I know that's supposed to be really good with the pirate stuff, but I do remember playing the boat stuff from Assassin's Creed 3, so I'm like, what's the diff?
So pirate combat in Black Flag was fantastic. It was great. I love that part of the game. That was like, I was supposed to be going exploring these islands and diving down in the water. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I want to upgrade my ship. All I wanted to do is sail around and look for boats to attack. They got pirate combat down really well. So when I found out Skull and Bones was going to take that part out, I was like, dude, here's my money. And then you watch this preview and you get this weird, like, is this really happening? What is all this? What do you do in this game? And here's something I want to know if you noticed. They've got this voiceover that's talking about the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she keeps talking about the game and the systems. Like she'll say, in our game, such and such, blah, blah, blah. And people don't talk about games like that anymore. They're like, here's things you can do in our game. Right. Talking about it like it's a game felt like, here's what it felt like. It felt like the developers have been in there working on it. And finally, like the execs and the marketing people came in and they were like, hey, what are y'all doing in here? They're like, oh, we're working on Skull and Bones. They're like, stop. We're just going to sell it like it is.
Yeah.
Get the marketing person to do the read over, put it out there. We got to move on. We spent too much time and money on this game. It's weird. I want it to be good. I hope it's good, but this was not a great preview.
It's going to be lots of microtransactions. That's what it smelled of when I saw it. You're going to be able to buy your best boat for $100.
Yeah.
You spend $70 on the game.
Yeah.
And then you spend $100 to get the big boat instead of you working your way up. And I think it's because they have Sea of Thieves to compete with.
Yeah.
And that's probably why.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard because it's going to be like, are people into pirates anymore? Yes or no?
Yeah, right. I don't know if people are into it. And Sea of Thieves is a great game. I was kind of looking forward to something that's a little bit more realistic and not so cartoony. But then it's like, oh, you can hunt alligators. I don't want to hunt alligators. I'm a pirate.
Right.
I'll go like steal an alligator from someone's boat or something. I'm not going to hunt alligators. He's on like standing on the side of his boat spearing an alligator. No.
I'd rather hunt whale.
Sure. Yes. Hunt a whale.
That makes more sense.
One more preview came out this week. This one was also polarizing. The RoboCop gameplay preview. What'd you think?
Shut up and take my money.
Really?
Well, it looks. There's some low grade to it. It's not like the best thing in the world, but there's some stuff about that that's, to me, you don't have to make it the best thing in the world. It looks like your RoboCop, and I love how it's the '80s RoboCop, but not the reboot, which wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I've played RoboCop games before on the Nintendo and the Sega and the Commodore 64, and it's nice to see something kind of new, updated, and like it.
It's funny because it's like they tapped into that part of my brain that loves RoboCop, and it reminds me of how Mad Max, which I'm still going to get you to play at some point, the Mad Max game from 2015, captures the mood of Fury Road so well. And the minute this RoboCop preview started to play, it felt like you're playing the movie, the original RoboCop movie. They got the tone, they got the sound, they got the voice acting. And so I'm going, oh yeah. And then I'm watching it going, there's some problems here.
Right.
It's a first person shooter. The shooting doesn't look great, but like all that bypassed and went right to my amygdala and was like, you like RoboCop, don't you? Yes, I do. How about this RoboCop game? Yes, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is it's for us people that grew up on the movies and everything else that came after, the cartoon series and all the other games that try to be RoboCop. And it's like, yes, please. So I'm excited to see how it turns out.
I am disappointed they didn't get, I'd buy that for $1 in the trailer. Come on. What are you doing?
Maybe later on they'll do that. So what you been playing, Bob?
Well, I finally tried out Hard Space Shipbreaker. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. It's on Game Pass, so it's basically free to me. So I tried it out for a bit. Interesting game. I'm not going to stick with it. It is part of a genre now I'm starting to hear called Chore Core, where you're going in and doing chores. So, like there's a game that's all about power washing your house, right?
Yes.
Hard Space Shipbreaker is like that, where you go in and you deconstruct these ships. It's tedious, but also very, very chill game if you're looking for that. Very enjoyable. And I tell you what, one of the best openings to a game I've ever seen. So the game opens up, sets the stage to explain to you what your job is in this future where Earth has been decimated and your job is to go into outer space. You live on this little space station and you take these ships apart, and they take you through. It's like onboarding a big corporate company where you have to sign a disclaimer. You have to check all these boxes. No, I have not committed a felony. And it's funny. And you have to do a little thumbprint instead of just clicking next. You have to hold the mouse down to give your thumbprint that says you're moving on to the next thing. It was really cool. It's got a great feel to it. If you're inclined, you should go find a YouTube video that has the first 5 minutes of the game and check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to check it out. I've got Game Pass too. I just haven't jumped over there to look at it. But yeah, I'll try looking at it.
I don't know if it's on Xbox. I know it's on PC. What you been playing?
Well, I've been trying Hypercharge.
What is that?
So it's funny. I've seen this trailer a while ago, and I wish I got to play it. And then I got to switch over this past holiday season. And then I didn't realize this game was for it. It is a first-person shooter. But here's the twist: is that you are playing a toy. So remember, for anybody in the 80s and 90s, all the toys and action figures like G.I. Joe or He-Man or anything else. There's even like Beyblades in it. There's army soldiers, things like that. You play as a toy, and you're supposed to do a tower. It's tower defense. but first person.
Ooh.
So you gather
I like tower defense.
resources and bits, and you construct things like Lego bricks, and you build little gun turrets, but the whole world is you're a toy, so everything's big, and it's really cool. Everything's plastic looking. There's like a fake Toys R Us that you fight in. You start off.
I think I would like this.
Yeah, it's fun. I got it. I picked it up on the Switch. There's a PC. It's on PC, and I think it's going to get ported eventually to other consoles, I imagine, because apparently it's up in popularity and it's been out for a while. And I like it. It's fun. I haven't played online with anyone, but playing solo is relaxing and it's fun because there's like these little knockoff Beyblades that try to attack you as they spin around, and it's fun first person tower defense. I like it, and I like how it's it's very nostalgic because I'm playing as a toy and I'm fighting other toys.
There's a game I played with my kids years ago called Dungeon Defenders that was like this. It was like a fantasy. It was a wave-based. It was a third-person tower defense game. Where it looked a lot like this.
Orcs Must Die. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
This looks very cool, fun. And I don't know if you played Grounded. Grounded is one of my favorite games. But you're little in this. Grounded takes place in a backyard. This takes place in what looks like a kid's room. Really neat. I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, it has different places. There is like a backyard at one point. I haven't gotten to that level yet. But yeah, lots of cool levels.
Putting it on my list. Well, I mentioned that I tried out Gwent Rogue Mage, and here's the funny thing: is last week I told you that I got excited about the Magic the Gathering game, and so I went and downloaded that. Well, then you started me down this path with turning me on to what's that deck building game?
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire. You got me on Slay the Spire, and I was like, oh, deck building. Let me try out Magic the Gathering. Then Gwent Rogue Mage comes out, and I play that. And then I started thinking, this reminds me of Hearthstone. I need to go back and check Hearthstone and see what's changed. It's been years since I played it. Eric, the quality of Hearthstone. I mean, Hearthstone's gotten so big, and I don't want to say bloated, but there's so much in it. The meta has just left me far, far behind.
Yeah.
But wow, that game. I played Gwent Rogue Mage for a few minutes. I still don't know how to play the game. They're like, here's a tutorial, and they show you one thing, and then they just kind of drop you off. I still don't quite know how it works. And then they do things like you double tap cards to do some actions. And that's fine if you know what to double tap and when, but it's not always clear. Hearthstone is a masterclass in user interface design. It is always clear what you can do, how to interact with things. They give you visual cues as to what you can do and what you can't do. It's really, really great. And it made me think, like, if I'm going to sit down and play a deck building game, I'm going to play Hearthstone. I'll just play against the AI.
Here it is. The brass tacks are top 10.
The brass
It's
tacks.
hard for me to come up with a top 10. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I can't do a top 10 movies either. And here's the thing. It
Really?
changes. It has to be malleable because you change as you get older. So things change. Not because
Well, if that's true, why you got so many old games on this list?
Well, I'll get to it. But it's because you, as a person, you change, and when you and I'm one of those people that rewatches movies. So sometimes if you go back, you're like, okay, it's not as great as it was because of this, that, or the other, or man, I could see the cheese a lot more. Don't like it as much. I don't know. But
yeah,
that being said, it's hard to keep a top 10 together, in my opinion, because of new games and time.
Yeah, I'm curious how you arrived at this. Like you and I didn't really make any kind of ground rules or anything. We just said let's do a top 10. What gets something into the top 10 for you?
I had a couple of criteria. One being what's influenced me the most as a person. I think as a person, but also as someone in my choices of entertainment, and kind of led me onto the path of where I am today. In career-wise, because I do short, commercials. I do video editing, videography, animation, stuff like that. Because I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to make movies, and I've done short films. So I picked a lot of. You'll find out lots of story-driven games, but not everything is story-driven either. I also picked. Okay, what would I say is the most significant game per console or per era? I kind of did that, and also limited it to original IP, except one of them, and I'll point it out when we get to it. And I could argue why it's not necessarily an original. It is still an original IP. Because I try to stay away from, okay, this is like, here's a Star Wars game. Here is a game, based on a movie, based on a comic. Because there's plenty of those, but I felt like something that's an original, you can't get this story from any other medium but a video game. So that's where I came to that. If that makes sense.
I see.
What was your criteria?
Yeah. So I went back. I went through my Steam library. I went through every library that I have on every platform, and I just looked at them all. And I thought about kind of the feel of the game, like the emotion. Like Horizon Zero Dawn has a certain kind of just like fondness. For it. I loved being in that world. I loved that game. I played it through twice. And so I looked for games like that, but I also thought about playthroughs. If I play a game through more than once, it's gonna be really high on my list. Yeah. And I've got games I played through 2 and 3 times. I thought that was a lot until I saw your list where you got like 8 playthroughs on some things. But man, when I think about The Witcher, The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, I mean, I get this great feeling about the time when I went through that game. I can never go back through it again and get the same feeling that I did, but just the mystery of, oh my gosh, I wonder what's in that corner of the map. I'm going to go check that out. And then you find something incredible there. Some games spark that feeling and some games don't, but I can, just looking at my list, I can see a few on there that captured that for me.
I think we both agree that a game that we both share in our top 10s is Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
We have that in common.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Now, you did not sort yours, so I don't know how high on your list.
I couldn't sort.
Witcher 3 is.
I told you. There's no particular order.
But you have to pick a number one. You have to pick the top one on this list.
Well, if there was a game that I had... let's go through the list and then we'll do our number ones. How about that? That sounds like a good...
Okay.
So, but let's just go ahead and talk about Witcher 3, since that's in our top 10. For me... it wasn't until my current long-lasting relationship girlfriend, forever ever girlfriend, she was the one that was like, you need to play it. I stayed away from it because I knew it was good. I kept hearing how good it was, but I knew as soon as I would pick it up, I would be addicted and I wouldn't put it down. The system seemed a little daunting at first. It felt overwhelming. Because I looked at it before, I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I waited years until I got like the complete edition on PlayStation 4 for $10. So it came with all the DLC, all everything, just to play it. And so it was within just minutes. I was hooked. I was hooked enough that not only did I play it 3 times, I've played it 3 times because I would play it.
That's crazy.
I'd wait a year. Because to me, I feel like that's a good time to, once you do everything and you're satisfied, you wait another year to pick it up again and play through it. So it's about 50 to 70 hours each playthrough. And I'm excited to play through it again whenever they have the remastered edition come out for the next-gen consoles.
That's one. I told you before, I'm not really into remakes and remasters, but when they remaster that one, I'll play it.
Oh, yeah. It's just... voice acting, the animation, the story, the writing, everything is perfect.
The mood.
Oh, perfect. The music.
Music.
Here's how it is. So I like to have a sound when I go to sleep. We all have our thing, whether it's white noise, something else. I have to have something in the fan, something like that. I have the Care Morn song on loop for when I go to sleep from this game, because I love it that much, and it's so peaceful. I love it. And I love all the music from the game. So
I have like a Pavlovian reaction when you're going through the countryside and then you get attacked, like you enter a danger zone or something, and that little, I don't know if it's a violin, starts to play. You're like, oh, it's time to fight. Oh man, what a great feeling.
Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. If you haven't played it, you need to play it. It is spectacular.
Definitely.
Gameplay, story, everything. It is perfect.
I think I called it the Sistine Chapel of games. It's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece. It is. I understand it was buggy when it first was released, so I got it when it was debugged.
Yeah, I didn't hit. I don't remember any bugs, and I played it when it came out.
So why do you like it so much?
Oh, I mean everything that you said. It's just it's that mystery and the tone, and you're introduced to a new character. I mean, the thing that The Witcher 3 was not the first Witcher game, obviously. No. I kind of played around with The Witcher 1 and 2, but in a time when a lot of games are samey, another shooter, a modern shooter, another fantasy game. The Witcher was new. It was a new concept, and it came from this Polish author.
Yes,
this idea of a Witcher, someone who becomes a monster in order to slay monsters. So he's got his own demons he's got to fight. It's this dark kind of fantasy world. It's new, and they built something inside that new world, and it's just a pleasure. Oh, it is.
And speaking of which, and I loved it so much, I actually got into the books, and that's why this is the caveat to my list of something that's an original IP. I picked something that wasn't based on like a movie or a comic book. This was based on a book, but this particular storyline is off book. So it's not like, oh, there's a book of this. No, there isn't. It takes place after the book series. So this is like the third installment after all the books. And I went back and I read, I did Audible. I listened to the stories, and I loved them so much. And The Witcher show is spectacular, and will eventually, it's starting to cross over into this realm now of the game. So fans of the show will be fans of the game. And another interesting thing is I like having, when it comes to my fantasy or RPGs, I like having like a female avatar or protagonist.
I do too.
For whatever reason, I can't really put a thumb on it, but a strong female character protagonist is awesome to me. And this is one of my favorite male protagonists ever.
Yeah. It's the only open world RPG on your list. Elden Ring. Yeah. Elden Ring's an open world RPG. So I guess 2, it's not as story driven. My list is full of open world RPGs.
Yes. All right, so we have Witcher 3. That's in our top 10.
Well, one that you don't hear a lot about is Subnautica, and I've played Subnautica through from start to finish at least 3 times. Yeah. I think I own it on 3 different platforms. Have you ever played it?
I've watched gameplay. I've never picked it up myself.
If you like survival crafting games, you won't get any better than Subnautica. It's got it's underwater. And there's a term, and I don't know the clinical term, but there's a term for fear of the ocean, fear of the big open spaces of the ocean. And I have that totally. Like, that freaks me out. And this game has these enormous, you can build this little submarine, and you're driving around underwater looking for resources, and you feel claustrophobic. You feel fear. If you think that there's a creature, there's some really big creatures that can come after you in that game. Oh man, it makes me want to play it again. Subnautica came out with a sequel that's really good, but they opted for smaller. They kind of lost that sense of like huge ocean, and they've got these kind of more cramped little corridors you can go down. It's fine, but it wasn't as good as the original Subnautica.
Well, cool.
It's a survival crafting game where you can die if you don't eat and drink enough.
Oh no!
And you can get killed by the fauna in the game. They're not super aggressive, but some of them are. But you can build a base. You can build a submarine, and you can build a bigger submarine and park your little submarine inside the big submarine. You can have a mobile base in the submarine. That was crazy. One of the coolest things is you build a base, and then you have this gigantic sub that you can pilot. You go up in the sub, and you can put tools and shelves and stuff in the sub, so you can take your whole base with you. Oh man, it takes a lot of time to build up to that, like climb the tech tree to build the giant sub. But I've told you, the climbed OP. That's what I'm here for.
Oh yeah, it's that journey. It's great. Yeah, no, it's the reward for all that hard work. I get it. Yeah,
that's in my number 3 spot.
So you actually have yours in order.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Gotcha. So,
well, the question is, like, what's a game on here that I can't live without? Like, if you told me to take this list of top 10 games and break it down into 5, and I have to get rid of 5 of them, I know what those would be.
Ooh. Well, what would one of those be?
Oh, that I would drop off?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to keep Subnautica. I have to keep Satisfactory. I have to keep Far Cry. And I put Far Cry 3 and 4 in here.
Ooh,
and
is
really,
that
3, 4,
cheating?
and 5
Is
are
that
pretty much
cheating?
the same game. It is kind of cheating.
Because then, okay. I'll let it slide.
It's cheating.
I'll let it slide.
It's cheating because they're separate games. But if you've played the games, you know they're really the same game. You're doing the same thing. And just keep making more of those. It's fine. But yeah, that's a game I have to keep on my list. I love God of War. God of War is not in my top 5 because it doesn't have the same replayability for me that the other games do.
For me, it does. It's an emotional journey as well as a fun action journey.
Yeah, that's your thing. Like you're the story.
Oh,
you're a storytime gamer.
Yeah, I'm a storytime gamer for a reason because it's what's drawn me in to video games. Is because they're interactive movies until we get the holodeck working properly. And so with God of War, it is a great platformer action game. Y'all should check out my channel to see my playthrough if you haven't played it, God of War, or seen a playthrough of it. It's just there. And especially if you've got kids, it kind of even hits you even a little more emotionally, I would say. If you're in there and you don't even
totally,
and it's gone through the first 3 original PlayStation 2 God of War games. There's a lot of great things in it, but you don't have to play those to play this, and that's the amazing thing about it.
Yeah,
and that's when I'm excited to see what happens in God of War Ragnarok, for instance. But yeah, no, God of War. I would say that's in my top. If we have to put it closer to the top 5, definitely.
We're slowly whittling you down to a number 1. Don't tell me what your number 1 is yet. Talk about another item from your list
Final
here.
Fantasy 3, which was on Super Nintendo. So it was actually number 6 in Japan. That's important because without me ever playing that, and this was a game my brother got for Christmas one year for the Super Nintendo, and I happened to be young enough, I was young enough I could read, and I didn't really do RPGs or focus on them as much until this game came out. And I would watch him play and stay along for the story. And the story was so good. Like it was phenomenal. I never knew you could get such a story in a video game. And I would say this is the root of everything of who I am and to get in storytelling and into video games is because of this game. Being like that, because it wasn't like, there wasn't really a story in Super Mario or Mario Brothers than in Nintendo. There's some basic stories, but this was in depth. It had a ragtag group of characters, different backgrounds, overarching story. It is phenomenal. A really good villain, Kefka, is probably one of the meanest, evilest psycho bastards in a video game. Think of the Joker, but with magic abilities. And that's what you have.
Interesting.
And I'm always so pissed because Final Fantasy VII comes out within a year or so on the PlayStation, and everyone's like, OMG, Final Fantasy VII, oh my god, bow down, bow down. No. Yes, revolutionary technology and it looked great, but 6/3 is the shit when it comes to any Final Fantasy.
That good, huh?
Yeah, and the music's phenomenal. So anyway,
I never played a Final Fantasy game. I get it. I know how the gameplay works. It's turn-based.
Yeah.
Are they still turn-based?
They kind of did a hybrid when they did the remake for 7, where it's like you can go in there and do slashes, but you have to wait for your active gauge to go up to do special moves, and you have to have certain conditions. So it's a good mold of the two. Otherwise, it'd be something like with Kingdom Hearts, where it's just action, 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 which is like, a little weird. I kind of like the strategy of role play, turn-based, because that, to me, I like the strategy aspect.
Yeah.
So
I noticed on your list. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so yeah, Final Fantasy 3/6.
I noticed on your list that The Last of Us is on your list, but The Last of Us 2 is not on your list.
It's an honorable mention. Last of Us Part 2. I can't wait for the show to come out, but it was such a gut punch story-wise. And then playing it was just phenomenal. It was spectacular, that game. I played it through about 4 times. The original PlayStation 3 version and then the PlayStation 4 remaster. I love it, and I love that world, and I can't wait to play it again this fall when it gets the remaster.
Yeah.
Using with the engine, the new engine.
It's interesting. You know, I did not finish The Last of Us.
What?
It felt very repetitive. I know. Hear me out. It felt very repetitive.
Yeah.
I was going through another segment where I had to fight some clickers, and I just kind of got bored with it. But The Last of Us 2, you talk about gut punch.
That's a kidney stealer.
Eric, I can't play The Last of Us 2 again. I can't put myself through that. It was so emotionally wrenching. And talk about a masterclass in storytelling to get you to sympathize with your antagonist like that.
Such a flip of a twist.
The person you think is the most evil villain.
Yes.
You play as that character. And at first I was like, I don't want to do this. Don't make me do this. And then by the end, you're like, I'm going to get that Ellie. I'm going to kill her. Like you completely understand that. To make you empathize with a character like that and to show, hey, these are two people that are trying to do the best they can, and circumstances have put them in opposition to each other, and it becomes tragic.
Oh, very
and
much
at the
so.
end, where you get that kind of Pulp Fiction ending at the end where they have to cooperate, and man, that just it blew me away.
And it came to a point where I know so many people, when the a-hole that leaked what happens to Joel, spoilers, everybody. Whenever that happened, I didn't even know about the spoiler. I had an idea, but it was like people just said, "I'm done." I'm like, no, listen, watch, play. Don't just give up. Already, and it's very brutal. It's a very brutal story, gut punching and phenomenal. And it's one of those. It definitely between those games shows that how video games as a medium for storytelling is very effective.
Very effective. Yeah, it's not in my top 10 just because I'll never play it again.
Gotcha.
If they make a third one, I'll play a third one.
Yeah.
I'll never play Last of Us Part 2 again. I can't do it.
You'll watch someone else play it.
It hit all the notes for me though. Like, I like the climb to OP. Yep. You got that. It's got Ellie's mechanic of combat is great. Mm-hmm. A big step up from the first Last of Us, how that combat works, the crafting. Yeah. Fantastic. Just a great feeling game. But I can't go through the emotional roller coaster, emotional grinder again on that.
No, I get you. I understand. I'll play it for you. You don't have to do it again.
Did you ever play Spider-Man?
Oh, I love Spider-Man. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And we're talking about the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was...
Oh, yeah. I played it. I played it through again.
Yep.
On PS5.
That is... Oh, yeah. I love the remaster. Actually, that's an honorable mention.
That's a game. I think it's the only game I've ever platinumed, and that's a game that when it was over and I'd done everything there was to do in the game, I was sad. I was what? And so I would just wander around the city. You know, you were swinging around the city, like waiting for crimes to happen.
Yeah.
So I could go fight crime. I'm like swinging around, like somebody do something so I can go fight crime. And I did that for an hour, and I was like, I guess I need to stop playing now.
Right. And it's one of those games that you could say it's years in the making, not because of how it was developed, but all the predecessors swinging around the city Spider-Man games we had to endure and hope for and suffer through to get where it is now, where it's finally like, we made it, we got it.
Did you play Infamous on PlayStation when it came out?
No, I didn't.
Infamous, I believe it's the same company that made Spider-Man.
Insomniac.
Yeah, and it's got that same... I remember playing Infamous thinking, this should be a Spider-Man game because they get this urban traversal down really well.
Yeah.
That Spider-Man got perfectly.
Another game that I guess breaks the mold from my typical, it has to be a story. I'm not a snob, everybody. I am not a snob when it comes to games.
You'll slum it sometimes?
I slum it. And there's a lot of my honorable mentions that are slumming it. But Star Fox 64 was no pun intended, but a game changer on the 64. Mm-hmm. Rumble Pack. That came with the Rumble Pack. But it's not just the innovative technology, but the game itself is so fun. You have different paths based on different choices you make in the game. And you have different outcomes as you play through it. So it's very highly many replays. And I couldn't come up with a number of how many replays I played that game. But my brother and I played the hell out of that game. When it came out, it was so good. lots of memorable lines. So you might, if you're around me, you might hear me say dual barrel roll, and that comes from that, obviously. And it's just unique. I'm sad. The only way I can play it right now, because my brother actually has a 64 with him in the United Kingdom, is through the emulation on the Switch with the Nintendo Online. So I get to play it again, but I love it. I love that game. So that it's not a big story. It's not like, OMG, it's, had me in tears or got me inspired, but it's just fun, as games should be.
I remember seeing Star Fox, the first one, when it came out, and we didn't have very many 3D games at the time, and it was a fantastic game.
Yes, it was. Yeah, the original SNES. It was like, whoa, they do this on the Super Nintendo cartridge? That's insane. But then you come back on the 64, and it's this beautiful animation and voiceover, that's a feat in itself for the 64, I would say. And there's actually, what's funny is it came out around the same time as Independence Day, and there's a level that always makes me think about Independence Day. I forget what the planet is, but there's a big spaceship that has a bunch of other little spaceships come out of it. It's a giant UFO shape, and you're helping Bill, your friend Bill. And he's like, the hatches are open, and you're trying to go over there and shoot down the hatches, and then it's going to start shooting this giant ion cannon or something and destroy the building if you don't shoot it first, just like in Independence Day. So that might be another reason why it's like I have so much fondness for it. Well, we both, I think, have another game in our top 10, Elden Ring.
Elden Ring.
I'm hesitant because it's so fresh, but it's hard to. But the way I felt about it, it has to be in a top 10. It's definitely a top 10.
I know exactly what you mean, because I played all the Dark Souls games. I haven't played Bloodborne, but I love Dark Souls. Love them. But Elden Ring immediately took a position in my top 10 for the tone of the game. There's something about that game that just clicks right. Everybody in all of the gaming world resonated. Even if you didn't like it, you heard people talking about it. Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what's so amazing about it is it goes beyond the game itself. Because what do you mean? The community that goes trying to discover things, here's what I did, here's my build. And that's what it's so customizable for how you want to play and different ways to get through areas and bosses. And it was like, here you go, guys, here's a game, bare minimum of holding your hand, just more like here's arrows of what to do and how to do it. So simple, so well done, just not all in your face like other open worlds.
Great game.
Like we complain about sometimes.
Did you see the story this week where Let Me Solo Her?
Yes.
They sent him a sword because he'd beaten Malenia 2,000 times or something.
I have that moment recorded when I actually beat her finally. So I can't imagine doing that constantly and so perfectly as that guy, but he deserved it.
Yeah. I didn't finish Elden Ring. I got to the last boss.
I tried to help you.
I was like, I'm done. I don't need to beat it. I experienced the game. I explored everything.
Yep.
I got to OP. I saw the last boss. I don't need to go through it again. I might pick it up and play it with a different build one day.
Well, I'm excited to get DLC. I haven't started a new game plus on it because I'm waiting for DLC to drop. Otherwise, I'm excited about all the stuff I'm going to do in my New Game Plus. But it'll be funny because I'll pick it back up when it's like, whoa, I barely remember this, but okay, let's go.
That's what's so cool about it is, Horizon Zero Dawn has a New Game Plus, and I've played it, but you're playing the same game. This, I played as an astrologer.
Yeah.
But if I go back through as a samurai, it's almost a completely different game.
It is.
Playing as a different character.
Yeah, I switched.
Different build.
I switched halfway through, sort of. I started as a mage, as a prisoner with mage and sword stuff, and then I started using katana. But then I changed over to more some strength and faith stuff because it's like, wow, this is really cool, and I just love it. You become an Elden Lord and a god, basically. You become your own boss.
Yeah, it's weird. They took a lot of the elements of open world RPGs and mixed them up in a new way. I can't quite put my finger on how that is.
Yeah.
And I think about one of my favorite series of all time is Far Cry.
Yeah.
And it's a basic game. I mean, a lot of people look down on it. You talk about slumming it. When Far Cry 2 took place in Africa, I don't know if you ever saw that one, but it had kind of this realistic bent. It was a kind of a polarizing game. I liked it, but when Far Cry 3 hit, they mixed a great story with this classic RPG gameplay of here's a base that has bad guys in it, and if I go clear out the base, then I own that base and I clear this zone on the map, and I can climb a tower.
Yeah.
And I'll play games like that forever. Keep making them. Now the direction Far Cry is going in this last one was so bloated, so much stuff in it.
Ubisoft.
It's that, here's 10 steaks. I don't want 10 steaks. I want one really good steak.
Yep.
And that's what Far Cry 3 and 4 and 5 were. And I can still play those games through again. I hope if they make a Far Cry 7, they pull that back a little bit.
I would hope so too. The only first person shooter I have on my list is BioShock.
Great game. I'd forgotten about it.
8 playthroughs at least. I probably underestimating it just because it was so. I played the demo many times before the game actually came out. I played it on the 360, and it was like immersed in that world, the Art Deco, the style, the voice acting, and there's an interesting story to it. But it's just the gameplay and the world. It's so immersive and creepy. I loved it. I loved it so much. There was an iPad version that I bought. You can't download it anymore. But I bought it recently for my Switch, so I have it with me on the go, so I can pick it up and just play through it little by little. But I love it so much. I bought the remasters. I still have my.
You talk about.
Oh, go ahead.
You talk about formative gaming moments. I remember, like it was yesterday, encountering a Big Daddy for the first time.
Oh God, that was so horrifying.
I know.
Intimidating,
and you're like,
actually.
No. Yeah. Intimidating and as scared as you can be in a game,
Well, and just the in the game itself, the intro, once you get through the plane, you walk around, you see this, the lighthouse, and you go down through the bathysphere, and then you have the little video or the projector play.
Yeah.
And I am Andrew Ryan, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. This is Rapture. And it's like, that's an opener. It's like, holy shit.
It's a game you want to explore. You want to learn about. You don't skip the cutscenes.
No.
You want to know what's going to happen.
So good.
You ever played Terraria?
No.
Another open. Well, it's a side-scrolling. I guess it's definitely a survival crafting game. It's not really open world, but it's a giant 2D side-scrolling game where you can dig and you can build things and you can level up your character and you can fight. I have spent I don't know how many hours playing with my kids on multiple platforms. I played on the iPad. I played on the Mac. I played on the PC. I played on the Xbox. I played on the PlayStation. But sunk tons of time into that with my kids. One year, my son and I got into hex editing our save game files on the old Xbox. You can't do that anymore. But we were hex editing the save files and loading them back on the Xbox so we could get infinite resources and things like that. I've spent a significant chunk of my life playing that game and bonding with my kids over it. And that's why it made it into my top 10.
Well, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Something from my another 64 game, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. That was probably one of the first real open world games I ever played. Because it was, you'd go to different areas and have places to explore. You'd have dungeons to go into. You weren't forced to down a corridor or anything like that. I mean, the first one was kind of the Nintendo one was kind of open world with a map. Super Nintendo version had a map, but this was like full 3D with side quests and other things to do, to monkey around and upgrade and discover. And it was amazing. The music was amazing. The gameplay was amazing. The story was phenomenal, and it's very nostalgic because I remember getting that for Christmas, and I was just like, "Oh, this is awesome!" That changed how games were made on the 64 yet again.
Did you ever play Link to the Past?
I love Link to the Past. That was one of my favorite games.
Link to the Past.
That should actually that needs to be added to my honorable mentions, honestly. But without Link to the Past, you wouldn't have Zelda: Ocarina of Time. But Link to the Past was also groundbreaking for its time too.
It was almost like an open world Metroidvania kind of game. It was a formative game for me, Link to the Past. And I remember when Ocarina of Time came out, it was like, oh my gosh, Link to the Past, but in 3D.
Right.
Amazing game. I see you're a Metal Gear fan.
Oh, the original Metal Gear Solid. And this is another thing. I had a friend in middle school because I just had a PlayStation 2. I didn't have a PlayStation, but I got a job. So I can go save money and get a PlayStation 2, bagging groceries and pushing carts. And I got a PlayStation 2. And then my friend's like, you need to play Metal Gear Solid, because I was excited about Metal Gear Solid 2 coming out. Because it looked cool. It looked 3D. It was amazing. And then he's like, you should play it. I'm like, all right. And I picked it up and I was floored. The story, the gameplay, the interactivity, because there's a part where one of the characters, Meryl, is like, you need to find me on my codec or use the special codec to contact me. And Snake's like, where is it? Well, it's on the back of the CD case, duh. And there it is on the back of the physical CD case. After you play with all the items in the game that you hold as your character and you're trying to look around, it's actually on the physical case. It breaks boundaries. And that's Hideo Kojima for you. And I loved it. And I played through it so many times because you could unlock different things. It was a good story, good gunplay for what it is, and sneaking around. I loved it.
I feel like I missed out somewhere along the way on the Metal Gear craze, and I hate anytime people love something. I want in, right. But and I played the Phantom Pain. I played it through to the end. It's just not for me. There's kind of a silliness to it that I guess people like. I was just looking up the Wikipedia article on the Quiet, the sniper character.
Yeah, she's got interesting characteristics.
I mean, they have found a way to explain why they have a scantily clad, a sniper who wears like just rags because she has to breathe through her skin.
Which is cool. That's a cool, that's a superpower.
I guess.
It's interesting.
I guess. I mean, it's an excuse to have,
it is.
This character. And it's gotten more tasteful over time, if you can even believe that. But Quiet was an awesome character in Phantom Pain. She was kind of like a what do you call it, an ally that you could use, but like, oh, come on, with the ripped up clothes and stuff.
When it's becoming like, okay, this is very much what is it, just fan service.
I'm not 13 years old anymore.
So that's Metal Gear Solid. Love it. Actually bought a PlayStation Classic, one of the, it's like a small version of the PlayStation that's got everything on a solid state drive, just so I could have a copy I can play of Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Mad Max again because we've talked about it quite a bit, but it's on this list. There's something, and I don't know what it is, but when there is a post-apocalyptic story, it just hits some kind of note for me. There's a book called The Road that reminds me a lot of the Mad Max universe, but like I remember seeing the trailer for Mad Max Fury Road, movie, and just stopping. It's like the whole world hit the pause button. And I was like, oh, what is that? And I've seen the movie probably 12 times. I won't talk about the game right now, but it is on my top 10 list. But the only other game I haven't talked about is a game called Satisfactory, which we've talked a little bit about. This is a first person factory management game where you build little resource extractors and you tie them together with conveyor belts to build larger things and to combine things, and that it scratches some itch for me. I have sunk dozens and dozens and dozens of hours into Satisfactory.
I get it. Yeah, that's a game it sounds like you pick up and just play anytime and just love it.
So did we arrive at a number one for you?
Well, I have one more to talk about. And then we can talk about my number one. Yeah, Resident Evil 2, the original.
Oh, there it is.
I love the remake a lot, but the original one was amazing. I never actually played it on the PlayStation. I played the Nintendo 64 port, but it was the same thing. It was amazing. I loved it because it was horror, survival horror, had a great little story, very creepy, and it had you play as either Leon or Claire. And depending on who you played as, you can go back and play a B story and see what the other character's doing the same time the main character you played as did the same. And then it all correlated. So you were in different parts of the building. And so it felt like a longer game. And it's after you beat it, it's like, here's the rest of it that you didn't get to see. So I played it multiple times back and forth, just getting all the different aspects of it. And it was just always fun. I loved it. It was amazing. It was probably the first, there was plenty of horror type games beforehand, but that was, I think, the best survival horror game that I played, and kind of was when the genre was coming out.
Yeah, just listening to you talk about it makes me want to play it.
Oh, it's so good. So good. And that's one of the games I hope gets ported to the PlayStation 4 or 5, I should say, through the PlayStation Plus library, through whoever they get as an engineer to retrofit stuff.
it was fun putting this list together because it made me think about games that I just love.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel love for these games. It made me want to play them. It made me want to I need to take 6 months off and just replay all these games.
No kidding.
There's just not enough time to play
No,
them
there
all.
isn't enough time, and it's really hard to condense it down. All right, so it's come down to this. You've been trying to You've been trying to pry this from me this whole time.
I'm gonna get it out of you,
and you want my number one. And I guess I should go first, shouldn't I? Since you just want it so bad, or I could be mean and ask you to do it so you can wait longer.
You already know my number one. It's Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, all right. Well, you're right. So that's the one you could, if you had all those other games, that's the one you couldn't live without.
Couldn't live without it.
Okay. Well, I guess
if I had to take these games out of the world where they never happened, that's the game that has to happen.
Ooh.
It's that good.
Well, I guess Witcher 3 is my number one.
Ah, interesting. An open world RPG.
Yep. And
made it to your number one.
Well, and yours is an RPG too. But we both have an open world RPG, essentially.
Yeah, but I love open world RPGs. I've got lots of them. That's the only one on your list.
Well,
I guess Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time's an open world RPG, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. No, it's, well, you would think, okay, let me take that back. It's linear. There are things that are, the Witcher 3 is very much, it's got a linear story, but there's a lot of choices that determine different things.
Yeah.
So it's the most non-linear of the games. I agree.
Yeah. Zelda, there's things that are gated off in a typical Metroidvania kind of way, but Witcher 3, you can go to certain parts of the map that you have no business in.
Oh,
you can definitely go there.
Yeah, or you can go to Skellige right away. I never go there first. No, I always go to the Baron.
Yeah.
Every playthrough, I do it the same. I go to the Baron first.
Yeah.
And help him out.
Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, your number one game of all time.
And that's going to probably be there for a long time. I don't know what's going to dethrone that. I love Elden Ring enough, but it's not the same as Witcher 3. Just saying.
I don't often pay attention to stories in games. So if I do, then the story's really good. I didn't pay attention to the story in Elden Ring at all. Not even a little bit. Mm-hmm. But Witcher 3 and Horizon Zero Dawn, totally. Never skipped a cutscene. Always wanted to know what happened. The Elden Ring
story, you have to dig for it, which is interesting in my opinion. It's kind of like, and I love watching YouTubers that they do massive digging and they come up with the lore, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I try to piece it together and try to come up with my own ideas, but it's like, oh, I was wrong or way off.
I've always appreciated that about the Soulsborne game, that they don't rub your face in it. They're like, hey, this is over here, but you could ignore it if you want to.
And that's what gives it like, oh, I just want to get to the action, and there you go. You can get right into it.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable. Yeah. It's just fun. So we have honorable mentions. Why don't we just kind of go through the list? Name a couple things of why it's, what you like about it, or you just say it and we go through it. Does that sound good to you?
Sure.
No, honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
You can go first.
Oh, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Ghost of Tsushima.
That is good.
I want it to be on the top 10. It just couldn't make it. The Long Dark, which is a game about surviving in a frigid, kind of post-apocalyptic forest area. Really, really fun game. Shadow of Mordor, kind of a precursor to Batman Arkham Asylum. It's got that WB gameplay, the same as in Mad Max. I've played that through 3 times. Love that game. I love the world of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, so good.
Another masterpiece game. Halo Infinite. I love all the Halo games. None of them made it onto my list. I don't love them that much, I guess, because they're more for playing with my friends. But Halo Infinite was fantastic. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which you talked about earlier, that I really love. I've loved every Fallout game they've ever made, but 3 and 4 really hit the right notes for me. I hope the next one's really good. Skyrim, of course.
Oh yeah,
a masterpiece.
It is.
I'm surprised it's not higher on the list. Maybe it's too far in the past. I don't know, but great game.
Maybe I think it's, and you would be surprised it's not on either of ours. But it's been it's probably been supplanted by like Elden Ring and The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
So you could, if we had to say, okay, we wouldn't have these games if we didn't have Skyrim. Yeah, I get it, but it's been replaced.
Yeah. Last of Us Part 2 is on here.
Yeah.
Ghost Recon Wildlands,
Yeah.
which they've made a sequel to that, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, is not good. It's not good. They packed it. In fact, that one's interesting because they packed it full of so many like microtransaction crap, and they actually almost redid the game. I think the backlash to that game was so extreme. They were like, "Oh, you want another game like Wildlands? Oh, we can do that." But Wildlands was a great game, kind of an open world tactical shooter. Yeah. There's a game called Control. Have you played Control?
Yes, I have.
Oh my God, Control is so good. It's unique. The feeling unique. Of it, the shooting, it's fantastic.
Remedy, they're good people there.
Yeah. Hollow Knight. You ever played Hollow Knight?
No, I have not.
I love this is a classic side-scrolling Metroidvania about this cute little bug that fights. He's like a samurai bug. Oh, yeah. It's great. And then you've probably heard the hype about Hollow Knight Silk Song coming out. A lot of people are just psyched about Silk Song. It's going to be great. I've played Hollow Knight through a couple times. Yeah. Well, hey, don't give me a release date until you're ready. Make it
true.
Great.
That's true.
And the last one on my honorable mention list is Just Cause 3. I don't know if you ever played that, but it's a kind of, almost a silly kind of open world game.
Yeah.
Kind of takes place in South America, and you're this kind of like action hero who's got these tethers that you can like grab an airplane as it's flying by and like jump on it, tether two things together, make them smash. It's a lot of fun, a big dumb fun game.
Big
Just Cause
3. And that's what you need sometimes. The big dumb.
Sometimes that's what you need. All right, that's my honorable mentions. What you got?
Let's see. Way of the Samurai on PlayStation 2. I loved this game. I can't find a way to play it unless I had a PlayStation 2. And the reason why is that it was a unique game because it was your choices do different outcomes, and you had to be at certain places at certain parts of the day during this whole 3-day period. So things would happen at different times depending on where you were. And so you'd have to play through it several times to see what's happening on each day. And I love that about it. It's about samurai. Onimusha 2, which Onimusha is like the samurai version of Resident Evil. And this was another one of those games where it had more RPG elements to it. And you'd have like a bonding system with your teammates. And I really liked it. Mystical Ninja Goemon on the 64 was spectacular. I love that game on the 64.
I watched a video of it. It looked very basic.
Very Japanese.
I mean, for its time, I'm sure it was great, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just because I was so enamored with the Japanese culture that this was the closest thing I could get to like all really Japanesey. And it was amazing. Final Fantasy 9 is a classic Final Fantasy. Probably it's the second Final Fantasy I love compared to Final Fantasy 3. Last of Us Part 2. Need I say more? No. Horizon Zero Dawn was just amazing.
Amazing.
It didn't make it in the top 10, but I agree with you. It's just one of those great games. Mass Effect 2 was an amazing sci-fi RPG. I played through it so many times, and I've been able to keep everyone alive twice now on the 360 and the remastered version. And that's what I loved about it, is that you could do different choices and have different outcomes, whether everyone dies, certain people die, everyone dies, no one dies. Just
was that the one with the Mako? Or was it Mako
no,
in the first one?
That was the first one. Yeah, I hated that. No, they revamped the action, the gunplay, and that's why I loved it so much. It was a better gunplay system.
Yeah, great game.
But kept the RPG elements to it. Dead Space, the original, was amazing, creepy, awesome. I can't wait for the remake or remaster, I guess. Yeah, the remake, plus also Callisto Protocol. StarCraft. I loved Command and Conquer, but StarCraft blew that out of the water, most definitely.
Yeah.
Gears of War 3, I think, is the best of the Gears of War games, especially with the Horde mode on it. Just made it really fun to play. The story was
chunky.
The story is meh, but it's just fun to shoot shit. Uncharted 4 is an amazing cinematic experience.
Yes, it is.
I love when you get to Pirate Town or Pilot Island and just seeing the detail and all that. Another Naughty Dog game.
Talk about playing a movie is what the Uncharted games are like.
Red Dead Redemption 2, I've gone through the storyline twice. Poor Arthur. Arthur Morgan. Loved
That's a pretty
him.
good impression.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I do pretty good impressions, I think. Arkham Asylum. That would have been in the top 10 probably. But as I said, I was trying to stay away from like something that was not original.
That's not the open world Batman game, is it?
No, Arkham Knight. But Arkham Asylum had some open world. It had like Metroidvania style stuff to it. But no, it was like, you didn't have a really good Batman game, and then this came out, boom. And I would say because of Arkham Asylum, you get Spider-Man, which Spider-Man for PlayStation was amazing, and then Halo Reach. Is probably my favorite Halo of all the games, because it was a swan song from Bungie in the Halo franchise, but also it's just like the perfection of gunplay and story.
Yeah.
So those are my honorable mentions. If y'all have any chance to email us at emails@pausebuttongaming.com, let us know your top 10 games or favorite of any type whenever you get a chance. You got any recommendations? What you're watching?
Yeah. Have you finished Love, Death, and Robots Season 3?
Yes, I have. I binged it when it came out.
What was your favorite episode?
That's hard. It's between the crab and then also the I forget the title of it, but it's the conquistadors and the really interesting animation with the dancer chick with the the Death Knight. I love that.
That's the one I haven't seen.
You need to watch it. It's so good.
I will watch it today. The crab one, just the imagination that it took to come up with that.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh, so good. Love, Death, and Robots is such a good series. I wish they'd make them more often. Are they making them every year now? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is that they split it up so they could make it more often. So we wouldn't be like 2 or 3 years away from having another set. Because it was last year they had a set come out, and then they had come out with another set this year. So instead of it being like several at once, the first season, they were able to spread out. So hopefully we'll have another season 4 next summertime. It was like May.
I can't wait.
Oh, me either.
I just can't get enough of these. It reminds me of being a kid, and we didn't have as many video games to play when I was a kid. And so I would go to the library and then just look for stuff to read. And I remember finding these books of short stories, science fiction short stories. And a lot of them were kind of dark because they talked about, the nature of man's inhumanity to man and things like that. It's kind of explored those topics. And that's what Love, Death, and Robots feels like. Those little bite-sized stories. Oh, man. Great.
Oh, yeah. Great. Science fiction is some of the best, I think, in the short film, or not short film, the short story genres, when it comes to especially like, dangers of technology or something that's interesting, but definitely Love, Death, Robots. He sums it up.
There's a trailer that came out recently, and I'm curious if you've seen it. It is for a new Predator movie. Yeah. And I didn't know when you watch it, it doesn't say, this is a trailer for a Predator movie. It says, I think it's called Prey, and you see this like Native American looking woman running around. You're like, what is this? And then you see the Predator. Yes. And you're like, oh, it's a Predator movie.
Yeah. No, they need to do that.
It looks great.
They need to do that. I tried watching the recent one. I just couldn't get through the first 20 minutes or even 15. It was like, no, this is stupid. No.
The first Predator was good for a reason. And then they tried to do different things with it, which, okay, good for you for trying. Try something new. It's fine. But like this seems to come back to the original reason why Predator was great. One person against the Predator. I guess she's got help, but there's some great scenes in there. Right. It looks exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Now, the one that came out, I guess maybe about 10 years ago, it was the one where it was like Predators, I think. Yeah. And there's all the assassins. That was good. That was good. I enjoyed that one for whatever
it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's like, hey, I got this. It could have been a lot worse. I think if it had a lower budget, it could have been horrible, but it was fun to watch that one. Thanks for listening to Pause Button. Like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, and follow us on the Apple Podcast Store.
And send us your thoughts, ideas, and reactions to emails@pausebuttongaming.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, when life gets hectic, sometimes you need to hit the pause button.